I'm Bernadette, one of the relationship managers with Skills and Education Group. With me today are my relationship manager colleagues, Melody and Kay. We've got Sharon Bide, our head of customer support from BIAAB, and Julie Knowles, who you've been hearing already, head of access. And we're joined also by our colleague, Tom Hughes from our comms team, and Suzanne Dyer, who also works on our access to HE provision with us. This event, like the others that we're running, is being delivered by the relationship management team. Our team's aim and purpose is to help you to maximise your relationship with us, understand what we're about and how we can support your organisation. We pride ourselves on friendly and responsive customer service, and we hope there's not anything to the contrary on that today. And we're generally the first port of call when you start to think about planning or changing your offer. Our team work regionally and can help you think through plans, ensuring we share our latest developments with you. The purpose and aims of today really is to give you all the information you need to make sure you've got everything in place going forward when you start the new September 2021 term. We hope you'll ask questions and share your ideas and send us best practice with us. We're going to update you on a few of our new products and services that you can expect to see going forward. We're going to introduce you to our new relationship with the BIAAB, and we're going to be offering you a taste of Cpd Session and also advising you about our Skills and Education Group membership, the foundation, and a little bit about how Skills and Education Group Awards works too. Now, we hope you can have a little bit of fun with us along the way and join in as much as you can. We're going to be running some polls and we're going to be eliciting some chat responses. So we really encourage you to have your cameras on if you would like to. And we'd like you to obviously display your name, and I can see that most of that is happening, so that's great. If you want to ask anything at any time, type it into the chat and we'll monitor that and we'll respond as we go along. We are recording today's session, so you'll have access to it later on. However, feel free to capture or screenshot any of the information that we share today. As we're offering the Cpd session, we are going to be issuing you with a certificate of attendance, and we'll email you that after the end of the event along with the slides from today. If you want any further information on anything you hear throughout the day, again, pop your email in the chat or contact one of the relationship managers. There's going to be a slide at the end of today's session with the contact details on there. So we hope you enjoy the session today, and we hope you have a bit of fun, and we're going to kick off with a couple of interactive bits and pieces, and my colleague Melody is going to lead you through that.
Yeah, so as Bernadette says, I'm Melody and I'm one of the relationship managers at the Skills and Education Group. So Bernadette's already mentioned that throughout the day we're going to be using polls and the chat function to ask some questions. So some of you may have used polls before in Zoom and some of you may have not. So we've created a few light-hearted, bit of fun icebreakers just to give you a bit of a taster of how it works. And these icebreakers, because they aren't serious, they are anonymous. So don't feel any pressure to answer in a particular way. So some of the questions as well throughout the day, you'll be able to select multiple options. And then, as Bernadette says, some of them will be where we want an answer in the chat, and we'll indicate that to you as we go on. So I'll just start then with the first poll. So I'm just about to press launch polling. So you should have a screen that's now popped up. And the first question is, hand on heart, are you wearing pajamas right now? And then if you just select whichever answer is applicable to you or whatever you like, it's just a bit of fun. And then the second question shows underneath as well. So that one is, what's the strangest thing you did while attending a meeting online? I can see all the votes starting to come in now. I'll give it a few more seconds. There's only 2 people that haven't voted yet. Oh, just one now. Okay, oh, there we go. There's everyone. Brilliant. Okay, so I'll end that poll and I will share the answers with you. So now you should get another screen that pops up that tells you the answers to what everyone voted. So most of you are very well behaved and are not wearing your pajamas right now. And then the strangest thing you did while attending a meeting online, ate breakfast, is the most popular answer, closely followed by other, but my lips are sealed. Ooh. I'd be interested to hear what some of those are. So yeah, so now I have another question that's a little bit more serious. So let me just find that. Here we go. So you should have another one that's popped up now. So these ones aren't anonymous because they are serious questions and there's no sort of, there's no pressure in terms of what you answer for these. They are just straightforward questions, really. So the question is, what best describes your role within the centre, within your centre? So we've got 2 more people to vote and then we're good to go. Just 1 more person and then we're finished. There we go. Okay, so I'll share this with you as well because it will probably be interesting for you to see this too. So 59% of people attending today are a trainer, tutor, lecturer or head. And then obviously you'll be able to see the percentage results yourself down the other side as well.
We've got the right people here.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the sort of icebreaker polls that we had. So now we're just going to test out the chat function question. So for those of you that haven't used Zoom before, along the bottom, if you sort of hover over the screen, there is a box that says chat. If you press that, that will bring the chat function up. So the question is, what topic, trend or areas did you come to learn more about today? So if you just pop your answer in the chat. So we're getting some really great answers coming through already. So mapping, new developments. Oh, I've lost it now. Any ways in which CERTA can help are tutor teams and centres, new developments, updates and support, further developments. What I need to have prepared for September, new to the exam board, new developments, sharing ideas, understanding other people's challenges, updates. So I won't carry on reading through all of those, but it's really good for us to get a bit of an idea of what people are expecting, and then hopefully when we come to the end of the event, we'll be able to look back on those and hopefully we would have addressed some of those points that you've made there. So I think everyone's got the gist of it. So for now, I will hand over to
me.
Okay.
Hi everybody, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, everybody see that all right? Yeah, great stuff. Okay, so it's lovely to have everybody here. We have got a few missing, but people catch up. We'll send the recordings out. I do know quite a few people that are on the call, so it's great to see some familiar faces, but also it's great to see some new faces as well. I know that some of the new faces that are here are from organisations that I work with regularly anyway, so welcome, it's good to see you, and I can't wait to see everybody in the flesh, hopefully. As soon as possible, we'll be coming out to visit centres and having our catch-ups face-to-face rather than on Zoom. I think we're all getting a little bit Zoom fatigued now. So what I want to do is share with you what the CERT team have been up to over the last year. Lockdown for us has been crazy, as it has for everybody, but it's been really busy and really productive. And I think, if anything, for Searcher Access, it's been really positive. And I think Julie and the team will agree with that. So let's take a look first at an example of why we're also passionate about access to HE and why we love doing what we do for Access. So this is one of our lovely students from Leeds Art University. Let's just see about the impact on Access.
Okay, we haven't got the sound picking up.
Can you hear it?
No.
That's strange because it's really loud at my end. Okay, what's going on? Try again.
No.
Hearing it.
I'm not sure how to share the sound, but I know sometimes if I have this problem, I just cut and paste the URL into the chat bar and then people, you know, watch it alongside.
Okay, let's try that. That's a good suggestion.
Maybe unmute the screen share. How do you do that? You just said.
Sorry, I'm unsure on how to do it, but I know on Google Meet you can usually, if you're sharing a screen, it's almost like it's a new user.
Right, share computer sound. Let me try that.
Yeah, this might do it.
Just get back on the. Oops. Oh. Oh, my screen's disappeared. Really sorry. Hang on.
We can go here, okay. Oh,
What's happened to my screen?
Looks like it's frozen a bit, Kay, from what we can see.
yeah.
Right, I'm going to stop sharing and try again. Here we go.
Technical hitches, eh?
Yeah. Try again. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try again. See if we can hear John this time.
This time the video link.
Blimey, right. Right.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh. Sorry.
My name is John Gamble and I represent Art School Ilkley. I was very lucky to join the Access course, to find out about the Access course, and then I was very lucky to meet Sam, who was obviously, I didn't realise at the time, on some sort of project herself and research project. And the encouragement I got from that, and the encouragement of then going on to the MA, has made a massive difference to my life, completely changed it. I was able to have the confidence to go forward and do something different outside of the work that I was doing prior to starting on the Access course and also the MA. So the transition in my life has been helped enormously by this idea of lifelong learning and being able to make a change and having a second chance. I guess my own experiences of running small businesses has been really helpful, and also knowing that there's always wanted to make a change in my life. Small businesses often do change, so I was able to make a change through joining the Access course. So I guess my ability to swap from one thing to another but carry on through the entrepreneurship, a little bit of entrepreneurship, in order to make something that's viable and a project that can pay for itself as it goes along. So my practice centres around teaching, running an art school, which is a small community-based project, and also my own personal practice of essentially drawing, figurative art especially. I guess research is a big part of my practice as well, because I do a lot of research to help my students and also help my own practice. I would say that the confidence that I've had from working with art and from going on the MA and doing the Access course has allowed me then to gain that confidence and try and pass it on to other people. So people that come to our classes on a regular basis or just drop in every now and again, I always treat them as if they are already established artists. I treat them as professionals, as people that are coming into the space to make work and to give them that kind of good start in life, and therefore then they sort of grow from there really. A lot of people are very tentative about making work, drawing, painting, whatever it might be, but I think that the confidence I've gained I just try to pass on to other people, and also this constant sense of research needed to underpin any of the practice that I take part in.
Oh, that's great. And I know you've all got plenty of examples at your end as well, of really good stories coming out from students. And yeah, like Julie was saying before we started, to Yvonne, it'd be great if you could share any good stories with us, so that we can celebrate Access to HE with you as well. So the next bit I wanted to do is just remind you, considering it's curriculum planning time, that you'll be thinking about next year, although I'm not sure in your headspace how you can think about next year when you've still got to get through a lot of work still this year, catching up from lockdown, etc., and changes in awarding, etc. But here's a reminder of our Access to HE offer. I'll go over onto another page as well, but it's there. You might not realise how much there is with Search for Access to HE. It's not until you come to want to find something specific that you go and have a look, perhaps at the website. But this is a reminder of what we've got. So quite a lot in the creative sector now, actually, across dance. That covers lots of different types of dance. Creative industries is a new one that I'll talk a bit more about in a minute. And then on the business side of things, you can put business with more or less anything you want. A little bit on the environment, engineering, construction side of things, and then exciting bit things happening in the public protective services area. Our largest sector, where we get the most registrations, as you'd expect, is the health science professions, which falls in health and social well-being. And we've got some exciting additions for that for next year as well. So that's what's there at the minute. So I just wanted to remind you, because we had lots of conversations last year about what people were going to do in September 2020, because we had some new diplomas coming on, and due to the pandemic, a lot of people's plans got put on hold. Things changed. So I just want to remind you what new diplomas we did launch last September, just in case you're thinking of any of these for this September. So last September we launched a social work diploma, We launched Creative Industries, which is a diploma that covers a little bit of everything. So rather than it just being like the dance diploma, it's a bit of dance, a bit of music, a bit of backstage, a bit technical. So anything to do with working in that sector, students get the opportunity to choose from a selection of optional units around that. And we've got creative entrepreneurship in music, and this is really unique. This was developed with a provider in London that has got links into things like the Brit School and links into quite a lot of artists as well, musical artists. So we're looking forward to seeing that take off. So that's if somebody wants to be set up on their own around the music sector. Environmental climate science, again, very topical with the green agenda, and might be relevant to some of the areas that you work in with your LEP priorities as well. We launched policing last year as well, which has taken off really nicely, but even more so September coming up, we've got people that have already gone through the approval process, ready to start, because they wanted to start last year, but the timing, everything just got knocked back. So policing, really good, and that was developed with Sheffield College and South Yorkshire Police as well. Social action, again, that's another one that's kind of might come into its own now because of the fact that we've gone through pandemic and how people work in communities, etc. That was developed with Leeds City College. And so we hope to see a few more coming onto that in September. Psychology as well was developed last year as well. Coming in September 2021, so we're working on it at the moment. So that's the royal we, I mean Julie and the team. We have got early years, which is something that's brand new for us really, as far as the subject. That will sit nicely within our education portfolio, and we are developing that for a provider that's moving over to us from another AVA, and so we're excited to be working with them on that. And it'll be quite a bit in there around play work, working with children through play, and it'd be interesting to anybody who offers anything a bit higher level early years as a precursor in there to have a look at. Medicine as well is coming. That's one that we're working on a spec from QAA, rather than normally it would be a provider that comes to us and asks us to develop something, but this is a different way of working. But yeah, we're excited to have that in place, and we're working with some of the medical schools as well on that. And then another exciting one, we've got Textiles Manufacturing Diploma coming, which is going to be endorsed by UK Fashion Textiles, which is a membership body for that sector. And we had an overwhelming amount of support from the fashion textiles industry when we were building the business case for this to demonstrate whether it was worth developing or not. And because they're bringing manufacturing of textiles back to the UK, there's a lot of reskilling that needs to happen. And the feedback that we were having from employers and providers in this sector was that there's a definite gap between doing lower level training, like hands-on training, how to, for example, cut a pattern and how to set up a machine. There's a gap between that and university. So this is definitely the bit that's missing according to the sector. So we're excited to be launching that. And I know some of you have already expressed interest in that. And then we are going to be adding in to our health science professions, we're going to be adding in a social prescribing unit, because that's topical at the minute. And we have got a separate qualification for that at level 3 as part of Skills and Education Group Awards offer. But it's not always appropriate to do a full qualification alongside something else, because it's quite chunky. So when we've got students progressing onto university for health professions, social prescribing is going to be very topical. So we're including that as an option. And also we have plans to include dental nursing in there as well, some units that are more relevant to those wanting to go into dental, because we've got a dental provider moving over to us as well, so we want to be able to support them. So those are all exciting things. There are a million other things that we want to do, but there's only so much time in the year, and we're already thinking about what we're going to do for next year. So if you're interested in any of those, then feel free to let us know. Just so you know, the majority of the time when we are developing new diplomas, the requests are coming in from centres, so from you, the ideas come from you, and that's great. So we thank you for that. So you keep coming with us with where you think the gaps are. So just to echo that, our centres are key partners when we're developing diplomas. We do that to suit needs. And we do that a lot of the time when a centre's transitioning from one AVA to another, just to make sure that we've got the full portfolio that they offer. And sometimes it turns out that it's something new that we don't offer, which benefits everybody in the long run as well. So the development process can be quite simple. We do a lot of the legwork for it, but we want centres to be involved as much as they want to be, or as little, because we know you've got a lot of other stuff to do. This is not part of the day job. So we've got the experts, but we do like you to be involved in things like you can write some units if you want to, or you can read for us, or you can come and sit on the panel that validates. And Jill and Julie will speak to people about how much or how little you want to be involved. Also, if you think one of our diplomas that we already run has got a gap in there, so if you come to run something in September and you think, oh, there's something missing from there, then just get in touch with the team, because we are very flexible on being able to add in to the diploma to make sure that they meet your needs. If any of the strike code, then let us know. As you'll all know, the CERTA team are really supportive and responsive, and I've never met anybody more passionate about access than Julie. Because we want to make sure that you've got what you need to be able to support your students in the best way that you can, so that you can do a good job as well. So here we just wanted to share with you what a few of our centres have thought about us this last year, especially with lockdown. We've got some really good feedback, and USP College is a new one for us as well, and so that was really nice to get some feedback from somebody that doesn't know us, they don't work with us for anything else as well, so this is really positive. I'll stop sharing, and if you've got any questions, you can answer them now. Look. Okay, no questions. So I think I will pass over to Sharon, who's Head of Customer Service at BIIAB, which is a new AO that we've just acquired. So we thought it might be interesting for you to understand the relationship and how that's going to work. There you go, Sharon.
Okay, thank you, Kay. Right, I'm just going to try and work out how to share my presentation. Hopefully that will work. Can everyone see that okay? Fabulous. Okay, so I'm Sharon Bide, Head of Customer Support at BIAB Qualifications Limited. And as Kay said, we're a new acquisition to the Skills and Education Group family. So we came on board in March of this year, so very, very recently. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind few weeks, but they thought it'd be good if I came on and just explained who we are and what we do and what we offer. So BIAB Qualifications Limited, who are we? So we were part of the BII group of companies. If any of you worked in hospitality in the past, if any of you have worked serving alcohol, you may well have applied for a personal license. So one of the qualifications that we offer is the award for personal license holders, and that fitted really well within the BII. So the BII are a membership group, mainly licensees of pubs who are the members of the BII. And the BII wanted some qualifications to be available to their members. So that's where BIIAB came along, and we started developing hospitality qualifications in the main to start with. And then as time went on, we've developed more and more different sectors and really spread our portfolio fairly wide. We're also an endpoint assessment organisation as well, so we do offer that service to a number of companies. We're regulated by Ofqual in England, SQA in Scotland, Qualification Wales in Wales, and CCEA in Northern Ireland. So for endpoint assessments, we've got 18 standards. They're across a variety of areas. So we've got adult and lead, adult care, in hospitality. We've got the team member, the commis chef, chef de partie. You can see from the list there of everything we offer. So to date, I believe we've done probably do about 500 or so a year. So, and we've been going since they started. So we've done quite a number of endpoint assessments over the years. And then we also do quite a number of qualifications. So like I mentioned, the personal license holders, that's probably what we're most well known for doing, our one-day course. But we also do security. The security qualifications have literally at the beginning of April just been revised. So we've got new door supervisor, new CCTV, new security officer qualifications, and we offer those in England and Northern Ireland and also in Scotland. It's a slightly different version for Scotland. We've also got health and safety, first aid at work, beer and cellar quality, alcohol awareness. So quite a lot of our centres operate in the hospitality sector, and they offer quite a number of our short courses. And then for our other qualifications, they're probably what you probably know from fitting into the old frameworks that existed before standards came in. So we've produced assessment knowledge modules, which is basically what the learners would complete while they're on programme. And it goes alongside the assessment guidance, which is what the assessors would use when they're assessing their learners. And again, we've got a number of sectors that we operate these qualifications in. So health and social care, hospitality, retail, foundation learning. So if any of you want to find out any more about any of our qualifications that we offer, just come through to your relationship managers, because they've all been learning about all of our qualifications as well recently. So they'll be able to tell you what we offer. And just some benefits of working with us, it's the same as the service you're probably used to getting. We've got a dedicated customer support team. We can help you through how to use our systems, how to make registrations, achievements. You get a dedicated EQA that will come out to you, help you through running our qualifications, provide you with advice and support. And then from the endpoint assessment point of view, we've got our register of endpoint assessors. We do regular training with them, keep them all standardised so they're all up to speed and all running exactly the same. So that's just some benefits of working with us, and thank you. And that's our website if you want to have a look at us and find out more. And that's me done.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks a lot, Sharon.
I need to work out how to, there we go, stop. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. I'm going to do a couple of little sessions now for you just on some new initiatives that we're undertaking. I'll share my screen, bear with me. She says. Can you all see that? Yeah, great. Okay, so many of you, or some of you, or your exams team will have been using our Certa portal, I think it's Quartzweb, for learner registrations and results, certification claiming, etc., and invoicing. But we're launching, you can say, a new awarding management system which better enable customers, a better customer service, basically. It's called Creatio. A lot of you may be familiar with it because I think it's widely used by a number of awarding organisations already. And the new system will be available to centres from late August, early September. Hopefully it won't be too much of an inconvenience when we start moving everybody across. It will hold things like all the centre information that we hold, including qualification approvals, will all be transferred across automatically, so there shouldn't be any more additional work for centres. Centres will need to update individual staff records, and individuals accessing the system will need separate accounts going forward. However, we realise that not everyone will be familiar with this process, and it may look a bit daunting when we first get going. So full training and further updates will be available to all our centres in due course. If you have any questions about, obviously we've not released anything yet, it's just like a heads up to let you know that's coming. So pass the information on to your exams teams and those people who do deal with registrations and certification on a day-to-day basis. But they can get in touch with any of our relationship managers and our staff at the office to help you along the process. So that was just a little sneaky peek about what's going on with that one. So it's not very much more detail, but we can't release that until we finalise all the sort of information that's going on with that. And next, there's another little share with you. Okay. Last year, before the pandemic hit us and everything, we decided to partner with a company called Advanced Secure Technologies to provide an online portal for learners to securely view, download and order certification documents. There are guides to all of this on our Skills and Education Group Awards website, so you can have a look at that if you're interested. But it's really a great system to work with, both from a learner perspective and from a tutor perspective. So it's really easy to set up an account. You know, so there's a link that we can give you to follow. And from the centre portal, you can view the jobs issued by the Skills and Education Group. You can notify learners when they've got digital documents waiting for them. Those documents include things like certificates, transcripts, learner letters and centre letters. You can search within, I'm going to have to move my screen because I can't read what I'm doing. You can search within the records tab for all previous learners post 23rd of March by those, as you can see, those titles there. You can export jobs issued into a spreadsheet. You can export records, PDF and download them. And you can validate certificates by inputting the reference number in the checkbox on the dashboard. So really complex system, but really made easy for anyone that really wants to use it. For learners, learners can view the documents as we've got there, certificates, transcript, letters. They can share their documents with a third party. So if they're sort of applying for jobs or they're looking at external agencies, at universities, as you can see there, they can share that information via with all those sort of parties. And coming soon, we'll be able to order replacement certificates within that as well. So it takes all the onus off exam staff really by being able to control that directly without having to, you know, sort of coming back to administrators all the time. This is a sample of what the certificates actually look like, the digital certificate. So as you can see, it comes with all the regulatory authority badges on it. This is one for a counselling course for SEG Awards. And if you'd like a digital certificate account at your centre, you just need to follow the link there. We can send you, you'll get all these slides later, so you'll be able to follow that link. There's a small document there that you can see that you need to fill in, and that sort of sets you up and gets this process underway. So a lot of centres are now sort of using this. So if you're interested, have a look at it. There are some some guides on how the process works on the website also. So yeah, hopefully you'll get interested in having a look at that. And I'll stop sharing my screen. And so a bit of a whistle-stop tour that really, wasn't it? But just so you know what we've got that's aware that you might not be aware of previously for you to be able to use. And with that, I'm going to hand you over to Kay.
Hi guys. I'm just going to ask at the minute, has anybody got anything that they wanted to ask at this point? Or are you happy if we proceed? We're gonna just going to tell you a little bit about some of the qualifications on the other side of the business. So Skills Education Group Awards I think might be relevant to access learners, or it might be information that you might want to take away to other colleagues in the organisation. If there's anything that you want to ask at the minute, feel free to pop it in the chat or just put your hand up, or else I'll just carry on. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. I haven't got a video this time, so hopefully I'll be more successful. Okay, so we wanted to just share with you some bits that are relevant to access learners, and some of the centres that are on here are with us for access to HE diplomas, but you also work with us on off-call regulated quals as well. So we, going back a couple of years, developed pre-access qualifications hand in hand with Jill and Julie at CERTA to make sure that they fit directly into the access to HE diplomas. And we have those available around the most popular diplomas at that time. So we've got one based on humanities and social sciences, one based on health science professions, engineering, science, and then there is a generic award in developing study skills, which a couple of the centres on the call have actually taken that ready for September so that they can tailor it themselves without it being too specific to a particular diploma. Might be where you're sharing delivery across a number of curriculum areas, that might be more appropriate. So it's heads up for those. I mean, those are an ideal pump primer for your access to HE. They're ideal where you might have an open evening in January, for example, and you've not got an access course starting until September. You don't want to lose these really good students, so it's something to keep them warm, get them prepped, making sure they're up to the level that they need to be able to cope with the level 3 access to HE. And in there, a lot of the units, little tasters of what they'll get on the access to HE diploma, so they'll feel like they're really starting to get to grips with the subject that they want to study when they get to university as well. If you're interested in any of those, just let us know, because they do fall under, because they're an off-call regulated qualification, they fall under the Skills Education Group Award rather than CERTA, but they map straight in. And then I just wanted to share with you some of the things we've developed over the last year as well that are really interesting. And the bulk of these, apart from the workers' rights one, were developed for with Sheffield College, but they're available to everybody now. So there's a suite of level 1 awards that are only 10 hours long, and they're really good for tutorial support or pastoral support, or that wraparound that we want to give to students. And it came about in the lockdown with people having to work from home a lot. So to be able to make sure that students had appropriate work to do and that they had the skills they needed to be working independently online. So all of these are on an online portal, and the e-learning's there, and they go through and they can see their progress as they go, and they get badges as they go, and they get a certificate at the end. The ones that were developed during lockdown were keeping yourself safe online and developing digital literacy, purely because we wanted to make sure if we were setting students up to work at home, that then they knew how to do that safely on their own without anyone else around. So those two are part of a suite, bigger suite that includes health and safety, prevent mental health and well-being, safeguarding and equality and diversity. So organisations are using them in different ways. Sheffield College are using them to support study skills as their wraparound, and others are using them as short courses on like an introduction to the college, and others are using them standalone on their own. So those are really interesting, and the specs are all online. And then I think as well, interestingly, is the level 1 award in workers' rights and labour exploitation. This is brand new. for us, and it's in its pilot phase at the minute. We are piloting that on behalf of the Home Office and the Gang Masters and Labour Abuse Authority. And they came to us, we've done some work with them previously for our staff, and they came to us asking for a qualification. So we developed a level 1 10-hour course that's online or hard copy workbook if your students prefer that. And the pilot is with Nottingham University. And what we're doing is we're putting lots of different organisations and learners through this to be able to, one, check is the qualification as it needs to be and take feedback, but also to check the learning from those doing the course. So there'll be a survey that they have to do at the start. They'll go through the e-learning package, and then they will do a survey at the end. And Nottingham University are analysing all those surveys to see what the change in people's awareness of the subject is. And it's a bit like the old employer rights and responsibilities qualification, but it takes it one step further, because there's a whole section about how to spot signs of labour exploitation, what to do if you feel like you've been put in that position, who to contact. And so, yeah, we're doing that at the minute. We've got some colleges, we've got providers, we've got youth offenders, we've got a local authority. And although the window's tight, actually, if you did want to be involved, there is still time if you want to be involved. Just get in touch after this, and we can get you set up to run that. What we need to do is get everybody through by the middle of June. So it's not long, but then it's not a long course as well. If you're interested, just let us know that. But we are hoping that from that feedback, that in September it becomes an entitlement, along with maths and English. So it's there at the minute. It has a qual aim. It's on the hub, but it won't attract funding officially until it's gone through this pilot phase. I thought those might be of interest to you, just because they're new and they're relevant to everybody regardless. And then a few things that, depending on what route you're doing, just to remind people that we do have things that complement the Access to HE offer as well. So counselling, I know a few of you do counselling with us, as well as your Access to HE, and social prescribing, I mentioned before. And just because we're doing the new fashion one, just to remind you that there's a lead up to that as well, that makes sense for progression. Other things that I'm not going to read through these, but just to pass on to your colleagues, again with the green agenda, we've got our automotive offer is including now some green qualifications around electric and hybrid, got something new for hydrotherapy and reflexology and well-being. And then our fabrication and welding is now endorsed by Lincoln Electric. So one of the largest employers in the sector. So that's interesting. If that's something that you offer, there'll be extras available for working with us on that. And then brand new to us, we've started to offer CPC qualifications for transport managers as well, which is interesting. And just to echo what Sharon said, Endpoint Assessment is available as well. So some of those things are obviously not directly linked to Access to HE, but it might be that you want to share with a colleague when you get the slides, if it interests you at this curriculum planning time. Okay, has anybody got any questions? No? Okay, I think what we're going to do now, we're going to just have a short break, give you a chance just to grab a drink before we've got some more information about the group as a whole, membership, and then Julie's going to do her Cpd session. And so give you a chance just to stretch your legs for 5 minutes. So if everybody can come back just before 11, that would be great. Thank you.
just going to talk you through a little bit around our membership and foundation. I've got a video to share with you first, so I've just quickly in the break asked Kay, how did she share the volume? So hopefully it works this time. So you just bear with me, I'll sort that now. Can you see that? Yeah, okay, great.
The Skills and Education Group unites education and skills-oriented organisations. Our work has 3 key branches. We support the development of further education providers. We provide learners with qualifications and assessments. We assist learners in achieving access to HE diplomas. And our 4th branch, our foundation, champions social mobility. Social mobility is the movement of people from one social class to another. When it's working, it leads to a more equitable society. Our foundation will raise the profile of social mobility and advance skills and education to improve people's lives. We'll engage in project-based activity and research. We'll provide grants. And we'll recognise organisations, staff and learners for improving social mobility. How will you get involved?
So that was a little video just to give you a bit of an overview of what our membership and foundation is. This next slide, again, gives you a little bit of detail as to how it all links together. So the overarching organisation is the Skills and Education Group. And then within that, we have the membership, we have the foundation, we have the awards, and we also have Certa Access. So our membership aims to link all of this together to save your organisation money. And it also links into staff CPD as well. So the benefits of membership. So if you were to become a member, it enables you to gain free places at the Skills and Education Group annual conference. It allows you access for you and for all of your staff to our regular teach meets that happen once a term. We've had them at York College, we've had them at Sheffield College. We're always open to our providers approaching us and saying we'd like to host something and coming to us with a topic. So for example, Sheffield College, who have a really great tech suite, they came to us and approached us and said, we would like to host something around this, around tech as a teach meet. And it's not just limited to Sheffield College. Providers from all over the country, when we were actually able to travel, came together and shared best practice. So that's essentially what those teach meets are. You also get free places at our parliamentary reception. You'd have access to a collaborative project network and bidding service. So when you become a member as well, you get access to our membership hub. So our membership hub has over 100 resources on it, and it's based into different sections. So it might be English and maths, it might be quality assurance. It's broken down into sectors, and essentially if you click onto that page, you get a drop down of lots of different resources that other providers have shared. I've just seen something flash up in the chat, but I can't access it because I'm screen sharing. Hopefully.
It's only me. It's only me.
Oh, you can hear me, okay? Yeah. I just thought, oh, I don't know if you could hear. Yeah, so you get a drop down of all the different resources that you can access, and it's a collaborative page, so you can submit things on there as well. So it's all about that collaborative work and sharing best practice. So anyone who's a member, anyone who works at that organisation will have a account on there so that they can access all of that. So it's not just limited to 1 or 2 people, it's everyone who works at the college or training provider. And through that platform, you also book onto our events. There's a slide coming up shortly that will talk you through the different types of events that we offer. But essentially at the moment, all of those are being offered through online, through Zoom. So they're completely free to attend all of those. So as I mentioned before, they're in a range of different topic areas, and there is a slide later on that will show you what those topic areas are. Another great thing about the membership offer that all of our members get is that they don't have to pay the Skills and Education Group Awards fee. So if you access any of the ABC Awards or CERTA Awards qualifications, normally there's a £250 plus VAT annual fee. As a member, you won't have to pay that fee as it's included as part of your membership. So you, essentially, it's a great reason to take up membership to get all the extra benefits that come with it as well. I've already mentioned the access to the online webinars, and then you get access to our foundation grant funding for your learners. Now, this is something that I think most people will be very interested to hear about. So that initial video talked through the foundation briefly, but essentially every year, 40% of our award surplus goes into our foundation, which gives back to the sector. And it does that through learner grants. So essentially, if you had a learner who was struggling with the cost to and from college, struggling with resources, anything that supports social mobility, it might even be that you wanted to take a group of learners on a specific trip. That sort of thing we would look to fund. So the process is really simple. You will have a funding pot allocated to you as a member, and then to draw that money down, there's a form on the website. It's an online form, so you literally just click on the link, the learner fills it out, the centre fill out their section to support it, and then it goes through to our membership officer, who decides whether it's granted or not. The only time that we wouldn't grant something is if it doesn't fall within that sort of social mobility bracket. So as long as it does, you're pretty much guaranteed that we'll be able to fund that for you or for the learner. You also get free network places, but that varies depending on your level of membership, which I'll show you in the next slide. For our gold and platinum members, you also get an in-house Cpd session. So if there was something that came up in your quality improvement plan or a staff development need that you decided we need some training around X, you could come to us, and as gold members you get 1 bespoke Cpd session, and as platinum members you get 3 bespoke Cpd sessions. There is a brochure that we can send out to show you the type of thing that we are able to do as well. So if anyone wants that later, just there's a poll, just make sure that you tick membership and we can send you some more information on that. And then something that you'll all probably be really interested to hear about is that for gold and platinum members, you do actually get a discount on your access to HE annual fee. So gold members get 15% off and platinum members get 25% off. So as I mentioned earlier, this offer, it encompasses everything that we do all together and aims to save you money so that you get pretty much everything under one roof, if you like. So here are the packages for you to have a quick look over. Everything that I mentioned before in the previous slide, apart from the bits where I specifically said you only get this if you're gold or platinum, all of the members get. And then these are just a bit of information as to how many. So I've already mentioned that as I was going through. But our bronze package starts at £395 plus VAT. And don't forget, if you've already paid your Skills and Education Group Awards annual fee, the difference from the £250 to the £195 is, I think it's £145 plus VAT. So for an additional £145, you're able to draw down for foundation funding, access to all of those online events, your membership platform user that you get. So it's a really great upgrade for a small amount of investment, if you like. You get a lot more for your money back than what you invest. But yeah, so those are the packages, and they go up to 2,500 at platinum level. So this was a little bit around the networks that we offer. So just to give you a bit of an idea, I won't read through all of those, but these are some of the of the bits and pieces that we offer. So there's a range of different things: quality managers, resilience and wellbeing, LGBTQ+, LLDD send. I won't read through all of it, as you'll be able to see those on there. You can also access, for live information on this, if you go onto the Skills and Education Group website and you go on the events tab, you'll be able to see all the events that we have coming up. And you'll be able to see that to attend any of these events that are online, it's normally £15 to £30 per event. So depending on how many you attend, it's worth looking at the membership offer to see if it can save you money on that. So then here's a little bit around our CPD offer. This is where, so this is some of the bits that we've offered around CPD events. So managing behaviour in a blended classroom, beginner's guide to assessment, art of lazy teaching. There's a few pieces on there that I'm sure you'll be able to read through, and I will share these slides after. So the Skills and Education Group Foundation supports further education and skills providers, learners and organisations to improve in their efforts to improve social mobility. So the foundation, like I've already mentioned, it provides grants to learners. It's engaging in a project-based activity and research, the 100 Faces of FE, and it's becoming a voice for raising the profile of social mobility, as I've already mentioned. So here's a slide that talks around the grant funding that is available for your learners and the types of things that we will fund, as previously mentioned as well. So the grants do range from 200 through to 1,000, depending on the individual circumstances. But if there was a mitigating circumstance, we wouldn't just say no at 1,000 if there was a legitimate reason why more was needed. So we will still consider applications that are larger than that. So this is just the last part to mention. We do have some awards coming up, so don't forget to submit some nominations for these awards. So they're coming up in June 2021, and that's when the ceremony will take place, but the deadline is actually for the nominations is the 19th of May. So the link is there on the screen for where you can find where these nominations are. But to give you a bit of an idea of the categories that we have, there's the Inspiring Learner of the Year, Outstanding Staff Member of the Year, Social Impact Award, the Skills and Education Group Awards Centre of the Year, and the CERTA Access Provider of the Year. And these categories are open to Skills and Education Group. Oh, the ones with stars next to, sorry, yeah. So the ones with the asterisks next to are ones that are only open to members to apply for. So just check whether your organisation is a member before you apply for those. But that's everything with that slide. So if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to type in the chat or raise your hand. No. Okay, great. So we'll move on to the next the next agenda item, which was some more polls. You'll be glad to hear. So let me just get them up. So you should see them pop up on your screen now. So they're just a couple of questions. I think there's 5 of them, so make sure that you scroll down when you put your votes in on those. So the first one is, does your centre currently work with BIIAB? Don't worry if you don't know, you can select don't know, we won't judge you. And question 2 is, which of our new qualifications stroke EPAO services do you think your centre might offer going forward? The third question is, do you currently use our digital certificate service? The fourth question is your centre a SEG member? So remember, the membership is different to being a provider or being an awards customer. You'd have to have one of those packages. And then question 5, please tick if you would like any further information to be sent on any of the topics covered. And you can select multiple here. So if you want to have information on more than one area, just make sure that you tick multiple there. I'll just give you some time to go through those. Yes, so Catherine, I've just seen your message. The EPA is the Endpoint Assessment, so it's linked to apprenticeships. I think it was something that Kay covered in her slides. So we're testing your memory a little bit here, not intentionally. I'm just waiting on 5 more people to submit their results, and then we can get going. So 3 more people, and then we can progress. Just give it a few more. Give it 30 seconds, and then if hopefully everyone's had enough time, it might just be internal staff that haven't answered these. Well, hopefully everyone's had enough time to go through those. I'm going to end the polling. Okay, that's great. I won't share these at this time because they're probably more for internal use, and obviously if you want further information based on those answers that you've given, we'll provide that to you. So the next question is, I believe, is a chat one. Let me just go through quickly. Yes, so if there was anything that you did specifically want any information on, please just pop it in the chat if you'd like to. We will try and pick it up from the answers that you did give us, but if there was anything that you definitely didn't want to miss out on, please just pop it in the chat with your name and we can pick it up on our end. So I think now I'm handing over to Julie to do her CPD session.
Thanks, Mel. I will share my screen. And I'm hoping you can see that. Can everybody see that? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods. Okay. Okay, so working on the basis that we've got quite a lot of experts already in the meeting. So I'm hoping that you will be able to share your good practice as we go through. There's a 1 or 2 points where I'll ask you to put things in the chat and we can kind of save those for afterwards and share them with other people. But I was conscious that there might be some people who are new or have joined the curriculum team recently, or just getting to grips with assessing on access to HE. So I have worked on the basis that kind of a no or very little previous knowledge. So I will kind of go through things, and you can put things in the chat, or you can put your hand up and we'll take things individually, because I think this is where people really want to get to grips with this, given that this is our second academic year where we've been put under real pressure. And I say we, you know, collectively we're under pressure, but doing different things, of course. And we're very conscious that for tutor teams and for students, it's been a really challenging time. So there's never been a better time for us to look at how can we reduce the workload for you, for your students, and still maintain the quality of what you're offering and what the students get. So what we'll go through today, I'll show you which are the most popular study skills, and we're starting with study skills because it's the best place to start, really. But I will talk a little bit about, you know, you can map other units against other units, not just study skills. I'll give a little bit of an overview of what we mean by academic literacies, what the value of study skills is. And there's a little bit of a debate these days when we see external moderator visit reports about what the value of study skills is for some students, and how grading then impacted on it. The ways that we support students on Access to HE, re-establishing the value of study skills, and how can we do that? How can we help to do that? Some examples of embedding, and as I usually do, if Mike is all around on things, I always kind of say, Mike, give us an example of that. So I've had a little chat with Mike, and he's going to share with us how he does it at Hull College, but as a starting point, and I really hope that you can share the really good practice that you already do. And then next steps, and how can we help you? You know, if you know that this would be a really good thing, because you can see, maybe you've come into a team and you think, why do we do all of this assessment? Is there not an easier way to do some of this for everybody? Then, you know, how can we help? And we'll talk about that. And of course, I'll answer any questions. I am conscious that there's been a lot of things coming out of QAA recently, and we are sending invitations out to 3 events next week, which we would like people to attend. But if there is any questions related to where you are in the extraordinary regulatory framework for this year, I'm happy to answer those as well if we've got time. And if not, I'm happy to organise a separate call with you. Okay. So I hope you can see that. It's quite small, but I just wanted to show you just how popular study skills are. So over all of the diplomas, we've got 28, what we are classing as study skills. That means that they've got a prefix of a study skill. That's not to say that we don't have others that are classed as study skills, but the prefix of study skills, this is the majority of the most popular. So we've got 19 there that have got registrations against them. And as you can see, you know, if you look at the number of registrations against the top half a dozen, say, you'll see which are the most popular. Academic writing skills, you would expect it to be, because that is, I think we only have one diploma that doesn't have academic writing skills as a mandatory unit. Every other diploma has it as a mandatory unit alongside others. But so that's why that's the most popular. So you can see some of the things, some of the choices that centres make for their diploma in terms of study skills. You will already know what your study skills are. But I've used 1 or 2 of the top ones as examples of what you might do. So when I was kind of putting this PowerPoint together, and I was kind of asking myself the question of, so what is the benefit of study skills? I know what the benefit of study skills is. I know you know what the benefit is for students, and it's multiple. but I just thought it would be useful for us to kind of revisit, you know, what some of the theory attached to the benefits of study skills. And there's this term that you may already know, academic literacy, and that actually study skills is academic literacies, because it's a sets of practice where the focus shifts towards ways in which students learn to participate and make meaning within an academic context. So that's what we're talking about when we're, you know, one of those examples of study skills. And I've just listed some of the areas that would be considered as academic literacies. And that's why we ensure that it's embedded in the diploma, because without those things that we say are mandatory, and that they're, you know, and QAA are talking about, you know, ungraded and graded, you know, it's really important. And obviously topic by topic, diploma by diploma, it will be different. Those kind of literacies may be different depending on the topic. So for example, when Kay mentioned about the new developments, and we're developing the medicine diploma, and I know quite a few of you are interested in that, so we've got meetings coming up. One of the units, this is an unusual diploma where QAA have led the scene for this, which is not usual, but it was agreed by all of those medical schools that were involved in the development that the professional behaviours, a unit on professional behaviours, must be a mandatory unit. So that's the example of you know, an academic literacy that is related to medicine. So we know, anybody who's been teaching on, you know, in anything, but particularly for our adults, that one of the most effective means for supporting students is developing those academic literacies. And we do that on Access Teaching by embedding academic writing into subject content. So this helps students start to make the connections between how to write, how to research, how to reflect, how to present, and all of those other things that we might offer, and the topics that they're linking those to. And I always think it's a shame when you see, if I read a report where study skills is being taught separately to any of the other topics, and I think it's a shame in many ways, because it means that there's less of a connection, and it might be, students might find it harder to connect the academic to the study skills. So I referred to our old friend Stella Cottrell, who I know is usually on tutors' reading lists to give out to students in her long history of writing and researching study skills. And she says study skills are part of a broader process for personal, academic and professional development. And I think we would all agree that is. And yet, feedback from students in discussion with external moderators, you know, so in the first visit, you will know that the moderators meet with students, and one of the questions that the moderators ask students is, how do you value study skills? And again, there is quite often the reports come in where the students have said things like, I see them as insignificant, they're not worth the time needed on them, I need to spend more of my time on academic subjects. This next one I find quite concerning. I tend to leave submissions towards the end of the year for study skills. Tutors will report to us, we end up having to chase students for those study skills units. And I can see one or two people shaking their head. I shake my head as well, to get ready for moderation now. So there's a number of issues around that. Again, it's because the students haven't valued it. They've concentrated their time on the academic and the graded units, But actually, the bigger concern there is this is non-compliant, because if you have set a study skills assessment that is separate, and you have given a student a deadline, and it's not at the end of the year, and they are only getting that to you at the end of the year, then they've missed the deadlines. And in theory, unless there are mitigating circumstances, they may not meet the learning outcomes. They may not have met the criteria to get the credit for that unit. So that's another reason why it's really important to try and embed the study skills, because then it's all happening at a similar time to the subject content, if that makes sense. So you will know what students are saying to you about study skills, depending on how you approach study skills in your diploma. So I wonder if you would mind just typing into the chat how you approach it. Why do you think if students don't value them, if you've heard where students say, oh, I haven't got time to do the study skills stuff, I just want to get on and get, why do you think that is? What feedback do you get about that? So if you wouldn't mind just popping that into chat, and then if somebody can just read some of those out, because I can't quite see the chat at the moment.
I'll read them, Julie, as they come in.
Thank you.
Okay, so Catherine, to emphasise that learning to learn is an important factor, especially in access to HE.
Mm.
Any more for any more? And then Catherine's just added, but they don't always get it though.
No, I think that's a really important point, Catherine. I know when it's a long time ago that I taught an access to HE, but we used to teach, I used to teach it reflective practice. And that was one of those really tricky topics that you kind of need to have some experience to reflect on. And it was I love teaching it, but it took the students quite a long time to get it. And often they will already have been in university, and they would send messages back with pathway leader I had for nursing, who would go into the university to visit the students once they were in there. And they would send messages back to say, tell Julie I get reflective practice now. I didn't when I was on the course. And sometimes it can take time. But yeah, I agree, Catherine.
Got a few more as well now. So we've got Alistair has said, our initial main objection was to the extra work they had to do on top of what they were already doing. We did move to integrate a large amount of it, and we'll see to do that going forward.
Excellent, excellent.
And then got another Catherine, different Catherine. To prepare students for the written elements for HE, they do struggle to understand what they are, and that this is an area that needs continual development as you progress in HE.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got Alex, not graded. They are focused on the grades as per the uni offer, which is another conversation. Yes,
yeah. Thank you for that, Alex. It was almost like I'd set that one up because
Julie, I've just got a couple of others.
Yeah.
I read out just so that everybody's had a chat. But Abdul has said the issue is students disregard the unit as it's ungraded, so they feel it's a hindrance.
Yeah.
Sarah, we're struggling with this one in our centre with getting study skills right. We have too much extra work for them to do, but we are looking at how we can develop the sessions so they not only have study skills but have personal and professional skills too. Just a couple more. I've got Charlotte. Agree with the above comments. The students prioritise graded units and don't see the value of ungraded, whether they're study skills or other ungraded units. And finally, Tony, it's about how they're embedded in all the units to reinforce the link between professional practice and study skills.
Yeah.
And Alex has just got back on and said it could be more specific to their whole course, i.e. nursing or health.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. All of those are really pertinent. And I think a lot of them kept coming back to it's grading. So if you've been teaching on access for long enough, you will remember a time when there was no grading. It was all, you know, a student could get, how many credits, Yvonne, did your students used to get? 72, was it, at one point? Yeah, you know, it was a lot of credits. The student, I remember one year we had to double check it, but a couple of students from one of our colleges had got 120 credits. They just gathered and gathered and gathered. And that was the regulation at the time. It was open. Students could take as many credits as they wanted for their progression. And of course, over the years, that's tightened up. And then QAA introduced the idea of the diploma being moved into the tariff, the UCAS tariff. And the only way that we could do that was to introduce a grading system that allowed some differentiation between UCAS points. So we were persuaded, the AVAs were persuaded, there was quite, you know, a dialogue about, you know, we're doing okay as we are. Students value all the units as they are at the moment, and they're getting into university. Why do we need grading? But anyway, it happened, and it's been around for, you know, a long time now. You can see, you know, for many years now. So they were valued for their own sake. There was no weighting. And I think that's the thing now, that there is some kind of element of weighting. So this kind of judgment around graded or ungraded. And if it's ungraded, it doesn't seem to be as valuable as the graded units. So like I've put there, ungraded came after grading was introduced. The ungraded came to represent the part of the diploma that didn't get you your unit place. It was the graded units that get you your unit plates, even though the universities will say, we want the diploma, and of the diploma, we want something like, you know, 39 credits at distinction or 45 at merit. But what the offer is you must get the diploma. And without the ungraded units, the student won't get the diploma and they won't be able to meet their offer. So that's one of the key reasons that it's still as valuable, that it still makes up the whole content of the diploma. So within our centre handbook, I won't read them all out, but this is what we say students should be given opportunities to. So there's all those usual things about, you know, planning study time, proactively searching out advice and guidance, working to deadlines. And again, back to the thing about how is it a student is only handing in a study skills unit that may have been taught in October, but they're handing it in June. I've been to final moderations as the AVA rep going into the awards board. I remember going to one college where one of the course leaders was sitting as like a barrier, because they had all these cabinets where students kept their portfolios, and he was guarding this bank of cabinets to stop students bringing work in on the last day we were in the college. We were doing final moderation. And so we've seen various ways that that's done over the years. And actually, back to what I said before, it's non-compliant. It means that the student's not met the deadline unless the deadline is at the end, which is what we'll pick up a little bit later. So how do we re-establish the value of study skills where it isn't currently? Now, so I'm working on the basis that those of you who embed, those of you who have a particular approach to your study skills where the students do value, because I have read, you know, I've read all the moderator reports this year again. And, you know, it's really lovely to read a report where the moderators met with the students and can report back. Students do see the value of the study skills, the ungraded, you know, they do see that. And I think, well, it's really interesting to hear from that tutor's perspective, what they've done to ensure that the students do value that. But if they're not valued and they're focusing their energies, students are focusing energies on the graded rather than the ungraded, the subject content rather than study skills, then we must find ways to embed. And I put that photograph on there because it's like when children don't like vegetables or something that you really think is good for them. So you mix it in with the other stuff. It's just the same thing. We have to mix it in so they're not always aware that it's obvious. I mean, obviously you will talk through with them about how you're going to assess your assessment strategy. So they will see the different types of tasks, but they will see how it links better. So a creative tutor can map the content of academic writing skills, and I've listed some of the most popular ones, but any other unit actually, into a set of assessments for an appropriate unit within the course. When we had to give QAA all of our grading data last year, and all the AVAs did this, and this was for every unit, for every student, for every diploma across the AVA. So for us, we had 33,000 rows of data. And from that data that came out of all of the AVAs, QAA have worked out that diplomas have some variation between 9 and 80 assessments across the diploma. Now that is a massive variation, and what I'd like to see a little bit of is, what does that 9 assessments look like? I would imagine, without knowing, that it's probably something like an art and design course or a computing course, where it's much easier to get the assessments done for the whole diploma in fewer assignments. But between 9 and 80, now you've probably got a rough idea, and you might want to put into chat, if you already know, how many assessments your students do over the whole diploma. You know, if they do, I can see Mike's looking, if they do 1 assessment per unit and they do all 3 credit units, that's 20 assessments over the diploma as a rough guide. I know some do more than that. Last year, our calculation showed us that the maximum number of assessments per unit was 4 for us. That meant 4 assessments for a unit. That might have been a 6 credit, so that might not have been over the top. But 4 assessments for a unit is still quite a lot of work. So how many assessments do you have in your course? Do you know? If you want to type it into chat, and then Kay'll call out.
Yeah, we've got Catherine Larvin has said all ACs can be mapped across. Our digital media is around 9. Then
Excellent.
Mike said our diplomas are 20 to 22.
Yeah.
And then Sarah about 15 on social science.
So that's not too bad, Sarah, 15. Does anybody off the top of their head know that it's quite a lot more than that?
Sorry, could I just, sorry.
Yeah, Catherine, yes.
Sorry, it was a question. The first one was, I was asking, can all of the ACs be mapped across, or do you need to
sorry.
No, sorry. I know it's difficult, isn't it, when there's all that information? Yeah, so it was, can we map all of the ACs from a unit across, or do we need to keep some sort of separate to that unit?
Yeah, I think you can. If you look, and I've got some examples, but and I'll, when I get to that point, I'll ask Mike to show us, talk to us about what he does. But yes, if you look, and I'll show you an example, as I'll use academic writing skills, but yes.
Thank you.
We wrote the study skills units, hopefully generic enough that with it being in mind that they would be mapped. So hopefully they are generic enough that you could take the whole of it. And even if you think, oh, actually that little bit, you know, that assessment criteria wouldn't, you know, as long as you've logged that has to be picked up somewhere else in another assessment. But yes, you know, and if you're doing that with a unit and you think, oh, it feels a bit sticky there, have a conversation with us, because, you know, if we can tweak a unit to make that doable for everybody, we will do that. Is that okay?
Got a couple more, Julie. Do you want?
Yeah, lovely.
Alistair, 17 on health pathway, 5 study skills. Ivana, about 21 on health science.
Yeah. So thank you, Kate. So if you times that by the number of students you've got on the course, and then you think about the amount of assessment that is, and the internal moderation and the feedback to every student. It's a lot of work. So let us see if we can help you, and we'll keep this conversation going. I really want us to talk to anybody who would like us to help them make this happen if it's not happening as much as you want it to, or at all in your course. Okay, so examples of embedding then. Academic writing skills is a straightforward one. It's really straightforward, and I've put the learning outcomes. I haven't put the whole unit at this point, but the learning outcomes, and I've put here, it can be, you know, the written response could be in an essay, presentation, report, reflective log report. I've looked on the back of, sorry, I've put in report there twice. I looked on the back of the units, you know, where it shows you all the different types of assessments, and picked out the ones that academic writing probably fits best to. So if you can see there, be able to interpret specific questions, be able to structure a written response. It doesn't say what type of written response. Be able to present the response appropriately for the audience and purpose. It doesn't say what audience, what purpose, and then understand how to organise and apply information in their academic writing. So hopefully you'll see that's generic enough that you already know which units you think, oh, I could do, yeah, they already do all of that in a sociology unit, or you know, any other unit that you are delivering. So those are the learning outcomes for assessment criteria for academic writing skills. Presentation skills. Now, again, I know that I've done this in the past. Your academic writing skills, your presentation skills, your reflective practice and your research, you can pull so much together there to present. You know, if a student is presenting a research report, then they can use that piece of research and find ways to present it to an audience. They can show the research that they've done. They can use academic conventions. They can evaluate their own study, you know, so depending, it's the skill in the writing of the task that makes the difference here. So you can see from the learning outcomes of presentation skills, be able to select, analyse and evaluate topics, be able to structure and present research content. And it doesn't mean to say that you have to do a research report. It means any piece of work that a student has to do, they have to research it. So be able to use communication skills in a presentation. You know, there's various ways of communicating. Use aids and or equipment. We know with remote learning now that we've got really varied, you know, even this morning, just look at what we've done this morning in the aids and equipment that we're using. And again, be able to evaluate. Now, I know that some centres in their diplomas, the student evaluates every unit that they do. They have a little bit at the end where they have to make an evaluation statement about that unit, how they felt it went, what they found difficult about it, what they've learned from it, you know. So there's learning outcome 5 if the student is doing that. So like I've given examples here, some of the learning outcomes come linked to evidence a student is asked to present for academic writing skills. It doesn't say what type of presentation, so you could be flexible, and what's come out of this year more than any time is flexibility, you know, creativity. And if you've had conversations with the team over the last few months, that's what we're saying to you. Be creative, be flexible, push the boundaries of what you've always been doing. You know, obviously it's still got to be compliant, but if you've always thought, oh, I'd love to do something like that with the students, but I'm not quite sure how it fits, either talk to us, talk to your moderator, but have a go at it. You know, as long as you can demonstrate that the student is covering all of the learning outcomes required for those 2 units you're mapping, or it might be 3 units. You know, if you get really good at it, you could be looking at more than 2 units. So students can present findings from research undertaken for essay or report linked to academic writing skills or any other unit. So there is that flexibility. I've used information literacy as another popular example of a study skills. You know, an assessment plan could be used that shows a range of sources of information available for completion of academic writing work. A table that a student completes through the course that shows the various searches and an evaluation of each for 2.1. So can you see that there's lots of ways to gather that evidence that might take a little bit of work initially, but in the end, it's going to reduce your workload, it's going to reduce the student's workload. So in Learning Outcome 3, a lot of students do the Researching Ops into HE unit, but not everybody does that. We've got another unit that's really popular called the HE Toolkit. And that's a similar kind of unit where students have to demonstrate that they've done all the appropriate researching for their university courses, they've made an application, that kind of thing. But you can see in information literacy skills that, you know, 3.1, develop a search strategy and explain choice of the following, you know. So you can link that to any research, any search that the students are doing. And maybe 3.1c might not necessarily fit perfectly for your Researching Ops into HE, but it might do for something else because the student's already doing it. When we do these sessions next week, you know, what we've been saying is if a student is under real difficulties, and we'll be covering this in those sessions next week, and if you have adapted and you've tried other ways to support the student to get through, then ultimately you can look for other evidence so that the student can meet the learning outcomes for that unit. If they are struggling, then this is called extenuation. Now, I would say plan to have some of that in place. You know, if you know the student's already done that work, then make use of it. You know, we've always said, and it's the criteria, that once a student has demonstrated a learning outcome, you wouldn't keep over assessing that learning outcome. And yet we do across a diploma because we have to meet that learning outcome and that one. And we feel that quite often we have to do it separately. And what we're saying is we really can be flexible and creative in this. So things to consider when we're embedding, planning. It needs to be planned. You can't, you know, it wouldn't be ideal for you to suddenly decide to do it because you may get things, you might lose things, and you may find when the moderator comes that actually you thought you'd covered a learning outcome on a unit in another piece of work, but actually it was missed and then the student hasn't got that. So it has to be in an assessment strategy. 2 or 3 units mapped, I think that's, you know, that can be done. It's quite straightforward. It takes a little bit of forward planning. Can anybody see, or has anybody got any examples of where you might do more than that, more than 2 or 3 units? And there's no judgment on this because I encourage flexibility. So if you want to type in the chat, if you know that you've done more than, say, 2 or 3 units where you've mapped certain aspects or the whole of the aspects of the learning outcomes in, say, a big project or end of year project. It might be a little bit of a bridge too far for many people because it does take a bit of work. No comments?
No comments, Julie, but Catherine has asked if she can ask a question when the time's right.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I'll come to the end of this slide and then Catherine, if you want to ask your question.
Thank you.
So timing of assessment, you can set dates for later on in the course. You know, if you're teaching some study skills earlier in the course, which we would expect you to be, then the assessment deadline for that, because it's going to be linked to a unit later on, the assessment deadline for that can be later on, because then the students got a better chance of developing those skills so that the graded unit that they hand in later on is going to get a bit, you know, it'll be graded, so it will get a better grade if the deadline for, say, academic writing skills isn't in the first term, because it's allowing the student to develop those skills. Does that make sense? I mean, you could, what we talk about is long thin or short fat, and there's some variation of. And we know that the long thin approach can support higher grades for students because you're taking longer to do. And I know some centres talk about modules where you group a number of units together to make a module in a particular topic. And then you might have a hand-in date at the end of that module, which is a group of units. So there's so many different approaches. We're looking at building on learning over the year. Recording of the mapping is really, really crucial because, like I said earlier, you wouldn't want to get to the end of an academic year and find that the student hadn't met something which you thought they had done. So recording the mapping, having a visual to see that we don't want this to become an MVQ style where you're ticky boxy, they've met that criteria. It's not that, but just having some recording of where the mapping has been done. And QAA expects that there is a separate assessment task for the units that you're going to map. You can't just do one assignment brief and have it covered. It must show that the learning outcomes or assessment criteria for the units that you are mapping. You must have it pre-issue verified because, again, your internal moderator will be able to say to you, but have you thought about this? Or we could also do this other thing that isn't on this at the moment. So your internal moderator will want to see the tasks, and your external moderator will want to see the tasks, and they'll want to see that these tasks have been pre-issue verified before you give them to students. Varied assessments, we know that over the whole diploma, we want students to be exposed to you know, as many different types of assessment as possible. And your moderator might say to you, you do seem to be emphasising reports or essays here. Can you look at a little bit more varied assessment type? Because it needs to include those students who don't necessarily perform very well on certain tasks, certain types of assessment, but perform better on others. And basically, lessen the load. You know, if we can help you lessen the load for your students, for you, we want to do that, because this last couple of years has, you know, more than ever has highlighted the challenges that we're facing, and that's likely to continue. So let's take now as an opportunity to find ways to streamline where we can. It's common knowledge that we overassess on access to HE. If QAA have had a variation between 9 assessments and 80 assessments, there's no standardized approach there, you know. So let's have a look at how many assessments, and like you said earlier, you already have an idea of how many. But even if you think that's not too bad for a diploma, are there other ways that you could lessen that, you know, lessen the load? Catherine, did you want to ask your question now?
Thank you. Sorry, it was just too much to type in. Sorry, so thank you.
All right.
and sorry, I'm really trying to wrap my head sort of around all of these different elements, and so that we can get this really taken on board for next year.
Yeah.
So if say we have like a 6 credit unit with half a dozen learning outcomes, we just map one of those learning outcomes across. Do you have any sort of advice about what to do in terms of the grading descriptors for that unit? How would we sort of manage that, do you think?
Yes, you'd still need to make sure if it was two units that you were mapping that both were graded, you would to make sure that you were in the task that the grading descriptors were included within the tasks. And you might have different elements of the task. You know, you might have a number of small pieces for the students to do, and you might split the grading descriptors up. But it's on hold at the moment, but you know, QAA were looking, and you can understand why it's on hold, but they were looking at the grading model, and there is a proposal, and it might change after this last couple of years and what we've been going through. It might give them a different perspective, but there was a proposal that we go down to 3 grading descriptors across all diplomas rather than the 7 that we currently use with variation of. So that would lessen the load in the future. It won't obviously be for next academic year, but at the moment we do have units that do have a number of grading descriptors. And we do adjust them. If you look at a unit and think, I'm not really sure why grading descriptor 2 is on there, because the learning outcomes and assessment criteria don't really ask for that, then again, that's something we can have a look at. But yes, the grading descriptors must be embedded into, you know, contextualized into the task.
So thank you, Julie. So could we, for example, because you know some units have got a number of grading descriptors attached to them as well, haven't they? So could we, if we were mapping across the learning outcome, could we sort of map across one of the grading descriptors as well, if it was balanced and appropriate to do so?
Yeah, you would be looking to map as much as you could across. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you ever so much.
We're happy to, you know, we can put on separate sessions and do something with the tutor team, you know. Can certainly talk to you about doing that, no problem.
Super, thank you.
Any other questions typed in, Kay? No? Okay, and I'm just wondering where Mike's gone, because I put his name in the next slide. Has he got, are you there, Mike? Oh, you were down there. Mike, I've put you here because Mike's works in a really small team across 3 diplomas. It's a tiny team, isn't it? You've got 3 members of staff, and you've got how many students across 3 diplomas?
I think the number's about 160. So
yeah, so that's quite a lot of work for student, you know, for that number of students, and it's a really tight team. And of course, one of the things that you get through all of that is to do what Mike and the team do, and one of those things is mapping. So I just dropped Mike a message to say, oh no, you rang me, didn't you, over another matter? And I said, whilst I've got on, I'm putting the presentation together. So Mike, do you just want to give everybody an overview of how you map academic writing skills to in your law diploma?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, obviously you've covered an awful lot of information, so apologies if I'm going to be a bit repetitive. But I think a couple of things that's worth noting or saying that we found was that when we're mapping study skills in particular, we don't just have one brief for it. We will have the 2 briefs, so the 2 assignment briefs. Now that's purely for it makes it simpler, it makes it easier for the students to understand what we found, but more importantly, it makes it easier to have the audit trail for when your moderators come in. What we do is we look at something such as academic skills, which you've already said is really really generically written. And what we found when we started was that we were over assessing quite dramatically. So not only were the students doing essays in their main core subjects, they were then doing another ungraded essay for their study skills. So we put together the assignment briefs based on the fact that it was all about evidence gathering, really. So the very generic are our assignment briefs for study skills. It doesn't even state which assignment that they have to use from their main subjects. It doesn't say you have to use a criminal law one or you have to use the court system one. It says as long as it is an assignment that is over a stated word count, that is fully hard reference, that you provide in drafts, essay plans. And so what you'll get is when the student, the way that they submit it is they will submit their actual main assignment that's fully finished to their main core subject tutor, but they will also submit a copy of it along with the drafts, the evidence for the essay plan, and anything else that's required. So they're a study skills lecturer. So they're doing, basically all they're doing is making 2 copies of the same piece rather than writing 2 essays, which as a moderator, I'll often go into somewhere and find that students are just being over-assessed for over-assessed sake.
Yeah.
If anyone did have questions, I know that obviously someone was saying, wanting to make sure they get it right. But the key bit of advice that I've always thought of with regards to working with CERTA is put together what you think you should be doing and contact yourself, Julie, or your moderator directly, because as a moderator, I'd be quite happy if one of my centres emailed me an example, because I'd rather read about it now and have a look and find out any mistakes than find out at the end of the year it's been done wrong.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Thanks, Mike. I'm sure moderators would be really, really appreciate having sight of that, because that makes their work easier when they come out on visits as well. It's a win-win situation. A little bit of work in the first place, a little bit of thought through. Maybe it could be a team activity. If you ever coming together in the future with your team on site, that could be a task to do where you look at assessments. Kay, did anybody else put any other examples in? Because I know there is some really good practice of the people that... Does anybody else want to give an example of what they do and it works well? People don't have to, but we'd be happy to hear from people, because I know those people who really want to have a go at this or expand what's, if they've been dipping their toes but want to do it more, they'd, would really appreciate sharing. We're happy to share. Like Mike said, we've got 1 or 2 moderators here today who are also tutors and managers in their colleges, so they will see that evidence, when they're out and about. I just showed the content. Sorry, Mike.
One thing I will say is that what we've found, certainly since just with the study skills, just because it's so easy to map across, we found that the students have found it far more engaging and far more interesting. But I think that's purely for the fact is they don't really realise that it's ungraded until sort of later on, because they're doing it alongside anyway. And there's a bit of a two-pronged attack, really. Very, very clear, clearly written and well developed assignment briefs, but also I think the way that the tutor delivers it as well, sort of explaining the rationale behind it, which I know everyone will be doing anyway, but I think the briefs going alongside that really work. So while it might say, so for example, on our diplomas, we might have 20 assignment briefs to complete that diploma, yet 5 of them, a minimum of 5 of them are mapped across. So it is actually only about 15. It is far more tricky from a teacher's perspective, and when I'm looking at it from a moderator with a moderator hat on, it's far more difficult to cross map the the graded units, but it's not impossible. And I think that's the one where people have to be so careful on, and I would always advise sort of checking with your moderator to make sure that they're happy with it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mike. So I just had academic writing skills up so you could see what Mike, when Mike was referring to what he does, and you can see it's very generic. And then getting started with study skills with subject units. We've already covered a lot of this. See where the learning outcome and the assessment criteria can be demonstrated in another unit. 2 separate tasks, like we've said. Ensure the grading descriptors are utilised. Present tasks to IM for pre-issue verification. Issue to students, and explain, like Mike said, contextualise what the connection between the units are, so that they can benefit from that. I mean, which student wouldn't want to only have to do 1 essay for 2 units? It's a win-win situation. And then ensure that your IM and your EM is clear about what evidence they're sampling and where they can find it, and particularly if it's remote, they might have to go into different folders to get the evidence for that mapping. next steps then, you know, like Mike said, it's more tricky with 2 graded units, but it's not impossible. I pulled out 2 psychology type ones because that's my, you know, that's my background, and I was looking for one that, you know, I could very quickly say, yeah, I could do this and I could do that. So, you know, you can very quickly see the connection between cognitive psychology and child development, say, and find a way to map those, and various forms of assessment can be used for this. So how can we help? If you're unfamiliar or you'd like to talk further about it, just contact the team and we'll set something up, or we can organise a session. You know, like Mike's offered, you know, as a moderator, he'd be happy to have a look at examples, just if you want to test the water. Even as restrictions ease, we're living and working and studying in a different environment. So we've been harnessing those positives that have come out of having to work remotely. We encourage you to do that. And we want to support tutor teams to find ways to generally reduce the workload for students, for you as tutors. And of course, we're always talking about within regulation. Of course, we would be. And that's just a general introduction to mapping, but I'm happy to answer any other questions if people want to put into chat or put your hand up, or not sure what time we've got left.
You're all right for a couple of minutes, yeah. Catherine Lee mentioned about an example. She's saying she can give an example from another course teachers are to enhance knowledge and understanding of study skills and how they're important in dance. This is winter dance, isn't it? We ask students to complete a grant application form for a piece of choreography they want to create. This means they need to research their ideas, formulate and consider how they're going to make the work, who their audience are, who they wish to work with, and realise their ideas. This is submitted to us. They also discuss their work to an audience and ask for specific feedback. Is that the kind of thing you mean?
That's lovely. That sounds a really lovely one, Catherine. Thanks for sharing that. No, that's great, isn't it? It's contextualised, it's using the students, you know, it's pertinent to them, you know, it's their own research, you know, it's not some blanket research, it's pertinent to what they're interested in. So yeah, it's I can see Alex has got his hand up.
And Sarah as well.
And Sarah, I don't know which one came first.
Sarah came in the chat. Can I ask a question?
Yes,
please?
Sarah.
Hi, morning, Julie, morning everyone.
Hello.
Afternoon, actually. We've done some mapping for the psychology, but now I'm a little bit sure of how we feed back on that so that the EMs know that we've mapped across. On the module that we've just got in, we've used some learning outcomes from a first module to map across, obviously, during the adaptions. So what do I do? Do I need to put some paperwork in, or do we just on that feedback say this assessment criteria has been mapped from another mod, just on the feedback on the assignment brief, so that when the moderator comes, they're aware that that's what we've done?
Yeah, I think it's about, yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. I think it's about signposting, isn't it? It's often tutors will put a little note in the margin, won't they, to say which learning outcome or assessment criteria the students met at that point. But it's signposting, letting the student know that they've met and at what level, you know, if they've met it, and then if they've met it at pass merit distinction, but also to the internal and external moderator. Mike, how do you do the study skills against a graded, not the graded and graded, but how do you feed back then on the two, in your feedback sheets?
On the feedback, because we have a separate brief, we just feed back on them separate briefs. But Sarah, is that something that you're doing all the time, or are you doing that just for this year because of COVID and stuff? I was only asking that.
Yeah, it's just something we've done this year just because we've had a few staffing issues, and also because of the COVID situation and everything else. I'm really sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. She's howling away while she's playing with the toys. Sorry.
You know what then? I would suggest, Julie, I don't know if you would agree, but to cover Sarah, I would say that she fills out, you know, the form for regards to like amendments for COVID, and then that'll cover her.
Adaptations.
Yeah.
I've done I've done one of those. I've done an adoptions form, and I'm just wondering whether that's where, because, well, I don't know. I don't know what's best to do. Is it worth having that at the front of the student's portfolio, or is it just having that enough in my, obviously in my course management folder? It's a tough one, isn't it? Because
it's a tough one, yeah. So Mike, in terms of moderation, what would you expect to see when you go out?
Well, I would be, obviously, because as long as when Sarah said initially about just, you know, making sure that it's clear that it's mapped across in her feedback, I'd be happy with that. And obviously she's already done the adaptations form, which I know that you've already got.
Is good, yeah.
And
yeah, the adaptations covers a lot.
Yeah, and I just think as long as you make it really obvious to the moderator, but I don't do paperwork for paperwork's sake.
No, we're trying to reduce work. We're not trying to make more work.
Yeah, I know this is the thing. I've been moderating this year as well, and the centre that I moderated, they embedded the study skills into an assignment, but they had it all on one brief, and I actually found that really confusing. And obviously I worked at the college for many years, so I've worked with Mike and everything. So we all did it separate. We all although we embedded it, we always had separate and did like what Mike said. But we have a copy of the original. And that's easier.
Yeah. Okay. Alex, I think you had your hand up. Thanks, Sarah.
I think Sarah's kind of answered a bit of that question. So I'm relatively new to teaching, so I teach on the kind of health aspect of nursing, want of a better word. And there are learning outcomes which appear similar across different units. So for example, off the top of my head, in an ungraded unit, which is the detriments of health, I think the first learning outcome is something like explain the concept of health and how it relates to people. And then throughout the assignment, it's talking about the different concepts of health. And then on the health psychology module, learning assessment outcome 1.1 is define health. So they're probably going to have defined health in an ungraded unit previously. So it's like, is that something that you would look to potentially map? There's other examples with healthcare communication and psychology as well.
Absolutely, yes. Map them across. Otherwise, you're asking the student to do it more than once.
Indeed,
and if they're doing research, then they can meet those criteria in one hit.
Yeah, but you
need to make sure that the assignment brief, the task that you're asking them to do, covers them both. That's all.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
because
Alex.
Healthcare communication obviously goes across all units.
Yes. Yeah. I remember those units really well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'm conscious of time and I might have gone over, so apologies for that. But
no more questions in the chat.
No. Any other examples that you feel you really want to share? And it might be a little bit, you think, well, I'm not sure whether it's a bit risky, but we do this, and share if you'd like to, because I know there is some really good practice. One of the things I'm working towards is seeing less reports from moderators where they say students don't value ungraded units, and more reports where and when they do report, when centres do report that students value the grading, it's because they're embedded. They are embedded. So if they're valuing the ungraded, it's always because they're embedded. So the students see the value because of the graded unit, not maybe necessarily because it's academic writing are something that they need. Can you imagine doing teaching a diploma without any of the study skills? Student would not achieve in HE. They wouldn't finish the diploma maybe. So it is important. It's just about helping us balance that out as we go forward. So if there are no other questions, I do encourage you to contact the team. If you'd like to talk a little bit more, if you'd like to share some examples of what you're thinking, and we can give you some advice on that, stay in touch with us. Thanks for everybody that's contributed to those questions and put things in chat. Obviously, you'll get a copy of the PowerPoint, but I'll hand back to Kay or Mel, is it?
Yeah,
Picking up.
Mel.
Yeah, so we're at the final part now, so it's just some more, a bit of an evaluation poll and a couple of questions. So if you wouldn't mind popping in the chat, what is the most valuable thing you have learned during this event?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, so what is the most valuable thing you have learned during this event? If you just pop it into the chat. So this is good because some of the bits that are coming up now, so mapping and broader potential to map, further insight into the importance of study skills units, mapping, these are the sort of things that were mentioned at the start in that opening poll. So hopefully a lot of you got what you came for. Yeah, so more around flexibility and options, RE mapping, embedding skills, hearing what other centres do, CPD, yeah, great. All basically a lot of the stuff that was covered at that opening poll, so that's great. I think that's pretty much everyone's popped one in there, so I'll move on to the next question. Is there anything you wish we would have talked more about during the event? If you just pop that into chat as well. No. No. You all had enough of us talking. No. Okay, that's great. So just a couple of poll questions. So I'll launch those now, so you should see them pop up on your screen. So there's just 2 questions, and these are the last ones for you. So how often would you like us to offer centre events going forward? And then the second question is, how would you prefer to attend our events? So online, face-to-face, mix of both. I'll share these results with you because I think they'll be of interest to you. Okay, so I'll end that poll there. I'm just going to share the results so that you can all see those, because I thought that would be interesting. I think most people obviously still see the benefit of face-to-face as well with going for the mix of both. It's obviously, it goes to show that online's great, but mix of both is the most popular option there. And then 3 times a year, so that's great to hear that you're finding them useful and you want to keep the frequency up. So we'll bear that in mind going forward. So I'll stop sharing those results. And the only thing I've got left to ask is, are there any other issues or questions that anyone wants to raise? If so, let us know now. Pop them in chat or raise your hand. No? Okay, I'll hand over to Kay then. Thanks, everyone.
Lovely, thank you. So we just want to share some contact details with you to make sure that you know who your contacts are. Most people will be in regular contact with Julie anyway, I've got Sharon's contacts on there if you're interested in anything that she said, and then myself, Mel and Bernadette for the relationship team. Most of the time at the minute for Access to HE, it's me that you have the conversations with, but occasionally it might be Mel, just because we're based geographically, and most of our centres are in Yorkshire and Humber at the minute, with the odd one outside of the region. So yes, contact details there, and then all that's left to say is thank you for your time. Thanks for giving up your morning to come and spend it with us, and I hope you picked something up. Julie's session was obviously the draw to get people here, but we hope you learned something new about the group as a whole as well. And we'll follow up on the information that you asked for more of. We'll follow up on that. We will send out slides and video link as well, and so that you can share that with your colleagues as well. If you want to share that session of Julie's with them, that might help.
Okay, can I also just remind people that they'll be sending links out for 3 events that we're holding next week on extenuations that are part of the ERF for this year.
Great.
Based on that recent guidance that came out from QAA.
Lovely. That's great. If there's no more questions, I'll let you get on with your Friday afternoon. I'm sure there's enough to be doing. Thanks for your time, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
There we go.
Well done.